Thank you. It's really interesting, actually, listening to you there, Michael, because I think, you're a marketeer, whereas I work more in public relations. And I think there is a very different sort of shift there. And it might seem odd for somebody like me who has come from a political background as well, now works and has worked in public relations before. I've always advised my clients that unless their raison d'etre is to actively change public opinion, then you should stay out of politics and don't get involved in anything too controversial. So I think I take a much more risk-averse position, really. But the caveats I've mentioned notwithstanding, if you really want to change the public opinion, then obviously that's what you try and do. I really think I stand by that. If you're a business and you've got something to sell and you're not catering to a particular niche market that you want to target, then I think you've got everything to lose and very little to gain by wading into a culture war and risk alienating your customers. I can only think that the firms who do wade in, perhaps on the advice of their marketing department for doing something a bit different, either have their heads so far up their behinds that they assume everybody thinks like them, or they believe the maxim that all publicity is good publicity, which I think you also hinted at there. And I clearly think that's not true. And some of us are old enough to remember Gerard Ratner, who was asked how he could sell his jewellery so cheap. And he said, because it's crap, generated masses and masses of headlines. And of course, ultimately, the company went bust. So not all publicity is good publicity. So the promo for this event today referenced the Dove campaign, which we've also heard about. And personally, I thought that was great. As a non-conventional, beautiful, gorgeous supermodel woman, I thought it really, really spoke to me. Beauty products don't work any better on beautiful people or work any less better on ugly people. And half the population shouldn't be assailed because of how they look. So it was great, fabulous ad campaign. But here's the clincher for me, and what made it relevant is because it was relevant to the business. It wasn't like Jaguar going off on a limb. It was relevant to the business model. It wasn't a beer manufacturer adopting a male social media star who likes to pretend he's a female child. I mean, what's that got to do with beer? The only relevance there, as far as I can tell, is a well-hidden message that you could drink endless amounts of Bud Light and still not get beer goggles bad enough to see how ridiculous Dylan Mulvaney is. So the thing is, the kind of bad publicity that Budweiser attracted is brand destroying. It really can be a case of go woke, go broke. So as in February last year, when the Bud Light row was in the headlines, shareholders and customers did quit the firm in droves. They failed to get the price of my usual couple of dozen cans in the summer, although that's nothing as to, for instance, the Altria Group ditching £1.7 billion worth of shares in the parent company. It got so bad that even the tobacco companies bailed out Bud Light. Bud Light presumably thought it was being inclusive and welcoming when it invited Dylan Mulvaney to front their campaign, but in fact they were being the opposite. They were being exclusive, partisan, and I'd argue bigoted. They were basically saying to me, Suzanne, it's fine that a grown man pretends to be a young girl, and if you don't think that's a good thing, and you're not fit to drink our beer, so you can piss off. And I did, along with millions of others. And I have to say, I love that phrase, vote with your wallet. And I do, I'm afraid, including Lush. Although I boycotted Lush before the most recent campaign. I think I boycotted them several years ago when they had a sort of anti-police campaign. Paper Chase, I haven't shopped there since they made a grovelling apology for advertising in the Daily Mail and implying that all Daily Mail readers were, completely beyond the pale. Ben and Jerry's, although truthfully that's more because I don't like their ice cream. I think it's terrible. But there you go. So I'm not saying that companies shouldn't have ethics. Of course companies should have ethics. But ethics don't demand that you wade into every political debate. What having ethics means for me is respecting your customers by not making assumptions about their beliefs, their politics, their religion, or anything else. It's about focusing on your business, on concentrating on doing it well and making positive connections rather than bragging about what ideological cause you support and engaging in culture wars, which ultimately I think are only ever divisive. So ethics are thinking not about how to exploit the latest fad, but about your duty to your customers, your shareholders, and certainly not least your employees, who really, really don't want you to go bust or have to lay people off. And they also don't need the kind of aggro that you might get from a divisive campaign. So I'll end by quoting Warren Buffett, who I think summed it up. He said, "It takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. So best think about that first."